What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Miami Heat pregame show. Tonight, we're taking on the Milwaukee Bucks for the first time in the season. It's a whole lot that we want to talk about, especially consider what we all saw yesterday, or kind of saw, based on what we were doing with TNT. So today we have Mr. Greg Sylvander and Brady Hawk on the show. Greg, we're going to start with you. What are some of the things that you are looking forward to for this game?
It has to know where to go with that, right?
Yeah.
So I tweeted about it earlier, so I guess I'll go into a little bit more detail. I'm interested to see the way the team looks in the first 5 minutes of the game. Like, honestly, that loss, and when I woke up this morning thinking about it, this is going to sound like I'm doing Hope Traffic, Sunshine Pumper stuff. I'm excited about tonight. Like, I really want to see what these cats look like after getting slapped in the face like that. Like, they literally got embarrassed. So first 5 minutes of the game, the approach, Spoelstra's adjustments. I don't know that he has the balls to roll out Mo Harkless and Myers Leonard in the same starting lineup again. Like, I can just imagine what the fans would sound like if they were in the arena and got to cheer that starting lineup being announced and it happened again. So I'm expecting changes there. That'll be exciting. We should get that news any minute now. So those are like the things. And then hopefully if they can squeak out a victory, that would be super dope to try to bring a little bit of goodwill back to Heat Twitter, because it was a bleep show last night after that game.
Yeah, I think you brought up a lot of really good points, particularly with the starting lineup. Before that officially comes out, I kind of want to speculate about that a little bit. Brady, if you had to make any adjustments to the starting lineup, what would be some of the adjustments that you'd make?
Well, I think Greg had the same starting lineup that I think they should roll out. I think they should replace I don't know if they will do it, but I think they should, is put Avery Bradley in for defensive purposes. Don't let them get out on a 12-0 run to start the game. And also, I think putting Precious Achiuwa at the 4. There's got to be, fight at the beginning of that game. You're going to need energy. And those are high energy guys. Worrying about, I kind of talked about, you don't want to mess with the two guys, on that strong bench unit last game. But at this point, you don't need to save guys for the bench for later. You need to get out to a hot start. Like Greg said, first 5 minutes are going to be important. So rolling out with that lineup, I think kind of, at least gives them what they can see in a game like this without Jimmy Butler. And then hoping Goran Dragic can lead them off the bench from a scoring perspective. Because, he didn't get a lot of minutes yesterday. All the veterans rested. Andre Iguodala will be back tonight, so he'll get some minutes off the bench. So I think rolling with that starting lineup pretty much, rounds out a game from Spoelstra, making adjustments.
So I was one of those fans that Greg was alluding to that went off the deep end last night. I wanted to trade the whole damn team. Like, that's the type of fan I am. I'm good when it's good, and I'm terrible when it's terrible. But after I got a chance to sleep on it, like, I realized that I'm somewhere in the middle, where it's like last night was an aberration in terms of, Milwaukee hitting the most three-pointers ever in NBA history. But there were some things that we genuinely could take from it, both good and bad. Let's focus on some of the good right quick. KZ Okpala was definitely a good sign, especially defensively. Greg, do you see more from him this game?
I hope so. I mean, I feel like the longer that Jimmy sits, the more that I feel like if this isn't the time KZ gets the chance, like, when the hell is it going to be the time? So I hope that we continue to see more KZ minutes. It'd be fun if he was dropped in the starting lineup, right? I think that would inject some life into the fan base immediately. So like, that was a bright spot. I think Precious's minutes continue to be a bright spot every game. Avery Bradley was a bright spot, and I don't mean to steal thunder if you have topics lined up, but there were bright spots. But I don't blame you. Like, there was a moment last night, especially as we finished up the podcast, as I did with Alex, where I said, if this happens again tomorrow night, like, these guys are going to start looking over their shoulders about that James Harden shit. Like, that's not going to go away. It's only going to get louder. So all the more reason why this game's going to be intriguing to watch.
Greg, you never have to worry about stealing my thunder. I never have anything written down or listed out. I just
off the cuff. Freestyle. Yeah, that's how Jay-Z does it in the studio.
Absolutely. So you talked about some of the great, some of the good. Let's talk about some of the bad. Bam Adebayo. I don't necessarily think he was bad. per se, but we do expect a lot more from him in terms of what he provides us on a night where Jimmy Butler is out. So, Brady, what response are you expecting from Bam tonight?
Well, I think, from a Heat fan perspective, saying he's bad. He was getting traded last night and he didn't deserve the max. So that's one thing. But I think, people are focusing on the scoring thing. That's, as much as people want to paint him out to like taking that next step, right now that's not Bam Adebayo. He just needs to do what he does well. And one of those things that he does well is bring energy. And I think that's a part that you need to look at, because last night he did not bring intensity or energy. So if you're going to talk about Bam, changing from yesterday, I think that's the standpoint to look at. Defensively, just being a guy without Jimmy Butler there, especially, he needs to be, the leader on the court, the leader that's going to take over for a bunch of young guys that are on the floor, because they have a lot of them playing right now. So I think that's the perspective you got to look at. If he has opportunities, I think he should, take advantage of those. But the more important thing is going to be, him just being the leader and bringing the energy.
I think it was important that you mentioned some of Bam's strengths in terms of what he does. I don't know if Greg is paused right quick, but yeah, one of his there he goes. But yeah, one of his strengths is also his playmaking ability, which hasn't been on display as much as probably most of the Heat fan base would have liked this year. He's had some turnover issues. The team in general has had turnover issues. Greg, what do you think we do in terms of kind of being able to mitigate some of those issues that we've had?
Are you talking about Tyler Hero, Bam?
The team in general. This is the whole team.
No, it's a great call. So I think it's important not to pin it on one guy. There's been a lot of Hero hate. He's not a point guard and all that. He was never a point guard. Like, look, guys, like, I hate to break it to you, but it doesn't matter where he lines up in the positioning. If he's the shortest player that's starting, he is not the point guard. He's not the point guard. That's just not his role. So people need to understand that there's just an element of that from the total team perspective, I think you're seeing them maybe be a little careless, a little bit like they have taken for granted what was so special about what they did in the bubble. And also, this is like an extended preseason. Like, this first 30 days, the fact that we're going to make firm declarations on this team or any team it's so fanatic of us to think that we're going to really learn about what these teams are going to look like come playoff time by what happens in this extended weird preseason. So I I don't discount stuff that happens. Obviously, we're going to take things from it because we need stuff to talk about, but let's not go overboard with anything. I mean, it's early. You clean up turnovers, get a few stops here and there, and it changes everything.
Okay, so before I move on to the next point, I want to make sure to acknowledge the unidentified celebrity review for the $5 donation. The comment says, "Smack that like for the work." Absolutely. But Greg, I think you made a great point about this kind of being an extended preseason, and I think that's something that needs to be held in perspective. And I'm guilty of not being able to do so, but hold it in perspective in terms of where this team is in as it pertains to their development. Brady, now here's the issue that I have. While we do want to acknowledge that it has that this season is going to be unique in many ways, how soon is it before we can start to panic? Because our schedule doesn't get very much easier in the early stages of the season.
Yeah, I mean, for one, not having Jimmy Butler doesn't help. They're gonna, that doesn't mean anything because I think other guys need to step up. And that's the next man up, or other guys like Bam Adebayo making a jump. But ultimately, you don't have your best player, you don't have your leader. And with the schedule, January is not going to be any easier, as you mentioned. February is going to get easier, but for right now, they're just going to have to try and scrap up as many games as they can. They're going to have tough consecutive games against Boston, just like they did against Milwaukee. They got some tough ones ahead of them. So I think it is a good point about, continuing the preseason, because there's just so many, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, all these guys were just playing in the playoffs like a month ago. So there's a way to look at it. You haven't played in 9 months since February, but there's also a way to look at it, that you're still in a mode of playoff mode. taking a bit of a break and then trying to restart and get into regular season mode. So I think that's another mental aspect.
Yeah, like when to get concerned when they're out of the playoff hunt by however many games, or like Ricky J. Mark, shout out. He has a comment in here that that sums it up perfectly when Heat fans should get concerned. Riley has said this since the day he arrived in Miami, that he doesn't necessarily start evaluating the roster, even from a roster building / trade perspective, until the 20 to 25 game mark. That's in an 82 game season. So slightly shortened. Let's say we're going to go 20 games. If we're 20 games in and this team is like on some 6-14 type shit, then we're going to have to reevaluate some stuff. But as long as they're like in the 3, 4, 5, 6 seed range, just chill, y'all. Seriously.
Yeah. So shout out to Ricky. Ricky was last night on the post-game show being the voice of reason, but we were saying he was feeding into the Ethan propaganda. I saw a lineup here: Nunn, Duncan, KZ, Bam, Leonard. Is that official?
I can tell you for sure. Bear with me.
Yeah. But if that's official, is that better?
I don't think
I don't think that's official.
Yeah,
at least the media relations account for the Heat has not tweeted it out, and they usually do tweet the lineup.
Okay.
But I'm continually checking again because they do it right around when the team account does. So I'll try to get it to our watchers as quickly as possible.
No, I appreciate it because that's probably going to be around the time where we try and wrap up and let everybody get comfortable for the game. So let's talk about some of the things that I want to continue to harp on, some of the things that haven't worked continuously throughout the season. Mo Harkless. Feel free. I don't even have a question. Just like
it sucks, man.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No. I'm going to let Brady go because I don't want to start dominating, but it just sucks because I really thought Mo Harkless was going to they sold him on like taking less, coming in and having an elevated role. And I thought, okay, like this is another J manufactured tool, and it's just not working out. Anyway, Brady, you have better analysis than I do.
No, I think you bringing up Jay Crowder, I think that's the issue. I think he set the bar very high, coming off that bubble run. That when you're talking about him, a lot of people were like, he's the replacement. But he honestly is nothing like him. He plays nothing like him. He's not the same size. I think that's where you really see the difference is that against a team like Milwaukee. You could just feel comfortable throwing, a guy like Crowder on Giannis, but now you're talking about a power forward that you feel more comfortable throwing on a guy like Drew Holiday. So it's just a big difference. He's not bringing a lot offensively. Obviously, we talked about limitations constantly with a guy like Derrick Jones Jr. And it feels like it's the same thing, with Mo Harkless, even though we kind of were hoping he'd become a reliable three-point shooter, knock down the consistent corner three. But even, defensively, he's just, it's just not what a lot of people were expecting. But maybe give him some time. He hasn't played a lot. I think everybody's just always trying to give the benefit of the doubt at times, but it gets to a point where there's guys like KZ Okpala are ready to make that jump, similar players. And if there's two guys like that are that similar at a veteran stage, then I think the edge goes to the young guy.
Yeah, KZ does Mo Harkless no favors, but because KZ is already a fan favorite, and everybody's already everybody wants to watch him play. So
KZ gets one rebound, and everybody's like, "That's better than Harkless. Get his ass out of here,
bro." Did you see that steal that he made for a dunk last night? Oh,
yeah.
Oh, I almost had a heart attack. But yeah, Greg, Mo Harkless.
Oh, I mean, I've kind of unpacked a little bit of how I feel. I still think that there's a chance that they get him into game shape and into Miami Heat shape, I should say, and that he finds a way to be a contributor. There were times in the past where players were brought in. I'm thinking like off the top of my head, top of my head, I got like Shandon Anderson, Derek Anderson. I'm going back in the vault. Sorry, and showing my age, but like
Antoine Walker.
these are dudes that took time, that needed to get in heat shape. And by the time the playoffs rolled around, they found ways to make contributions. So I wouldn't rule that out for Harkless. It's just disconcerting because we were hoping to kind of plug and play him in that role. And that just doesn't look like it's going to be the case. So, I mean, let's just hope for the best. But this may be a DMP coach's decision tonight. I don't know. He may catch a fair one.
It may be a DMP coach's decision moving forward because not only is KZ not doing him any favors, with the way Precious is playing, Precious isn't doing him any favors either.
Spo may go really like shallow with the rotation. They don't play again till what, the first? I think so. I think they play Dallas on Friday, if I'm not mistaken. I wouldn't be surprised because of what happened in the last game if Spoelstra shortens the rotation even a little more and like condenses the minutes down to maybe 8.5 guys tonight.
8.5 guys is tough. Like who gets
I could be totally wrong. Maybe he plays 12 because it's early and all that. But when you get drubbed the way that they just did, I don't know.
But I would like to entertain the 8 guys idea because I want to know who do you think Spo would trust? Like who are the 8 guys right now that you think Spo would trust to play? I mean, he started how many different lineups already?
Not Myers, and $9 million. One day we have to talk about that. And Mo Harkless, so he would be out. I personally am not on the Kendrick Nunn bandwagon at the moment to get him out. So I'm going by process of elimination here. Who am I missing that? I mean, I feel like everybody else is probably okay. So we're getting somewhere in the neighborhood of not.
Yeah, so you're having KZ. You're pretty much having KZ, Precious, and Goran as your 3 off the bench.
You got it. Sounds good.
And then Olynyk would be a 9th.
Yeah, or if he's not a starter, because if you don't play both,
just say that's the guy we mentioned. I don't think he is the 9th.
Or maybe Iggy.
Right. Yeah, I'm probably like overstating that he would go 8.5 deep because it's so early in the season. But like I know that these dudes were probably watching film, the coaching staff, until 3 a.m. and woke up early and started watching it again. And this is the kind of stuff that makes that staff seething mad. So I would anticipate that he's going to be a fiery version of Spoelstra that we see tonight.
And it would make sense. It would make sense, Iguodala not playing yesterday and Dragic,
exactly
coming out there early. That
low minutes, correct?
Right, and they're just going to get a bunch of minutes today. So I could honestly see them cutting the rotation like that.
Yeah, and I think that's another underrated part of yesterday's loss was that Dragic barely played. Like even if he had played, like you saw immediately as soon as he got in the game, that's when Tyler started to come alive a little bit. And Greg, I think you were talking about it a little bit earlier, but I think Tyler really plays well when he has another lead guard next to him. And I think that's not so much what Heat fans when they're talking about Tyler at the point. I think that's what they're talking about, that Tyler doesn't need to be the lead ball handling guard when he goes out there. And I think that's what he is with the lineups that Spo has been trotting out in these first couple of games.
Yeah, well, Jimmy's out, so that's hurting. Yeah. They're having to rely on him a little bit more. And Bam has obviously been a bit more turnover prone than you would like. But this is also something that people have to understand that they're doing. They're evaluating and pushing Hero and seeing how comfortable, how good can he get? What can he do? And there's some growing pains involved there, but they're evaluating because they have decisions to make on, trades or, there's all kinds of different stuff. So I think that they are putting him in position to kind of push himself a little bit. And I'm not concerned about Tyler Hero. I mean, like they're going to figure out the right role for him. In a perfect world, you have Jimmy controlling most of the ball handling and playmaking, and it's a non-issue.
And to that point, I just want to make one point that, Tyler Hero, I don't think it was a position thing yesterday when you see him becoming more comfortable. I think it's just when Goran enters. I've been saying, like, when you watch Goran enter with Tyler, Tyler's just automatically more comfortable. I don't know if that's him at the 2. I think it's just more when he's on the floor with Goran, that's who he played with last year off the bench.
Goran and Precious too, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was about to say, just being honest, it's not only. I think that's Goran's effect on everybody. He just has a way of like suiting. And I think you guys were talking about it on the pod one time. Is this the best that we've seen somebody play at Goran's age? Because it's almost automatic now that Goran, when he gets in the game, he turns it around.
It's true.
He puts everybody in their natural position. He makes everybody at ease, which makes it, like I believe that's one of the most underrated signings that we had during free agency. Like just showing Gordon that he's appreciated because he's playing more free, and he's doing this on a very short time off of that injury. I'm wondering how he's doing it.
The players around the league, and I know this from talking to a couple of different guys, that they noticed the way that the Heat took care of Goran and that they like paid him, like to stay, and that it's kind of an unspoken thing that he's going to stay in Miami forever. So I agree with you. That was an underrated signing by the Heat for sure. But the way that he's playing, Dwayne had amazing moments as an older player.
But 34, that was purple shirt year though, right?
Yeah, that was purple shirt year. But even in like the last years, there were moments, there were games, like that kind of thing. Yeah, like exactly. Also like Alonzo, I don't know what his age was, game 6 at Dallas in 06. But that would be up there in terms of like a late age player that plays crazy, but on a consistent basis and having to like have the team rely upon it to be functional. 100% like Goran Dragic is that guy so far. That's not sustainable and that's not ideal. So they're going to need to figure out how they're going to be able to go through stretches of the season where Goran doesn't have to carry that kind of load, because he shouldn't be relied upon to do that with this team.
Somebody made a Dolphins analogy in the comments. They say Goran is Fitz and Tua is Hero. Like, I don't know if that's an accurate. No. But sticking with Goran, like I'm curious. Do you guys rank him as like the first or second best point guard in Heat history? I'll start with Brady because Brady's memory is a little more recent.
Well, since I've seen so many of the point guards in Heat history, since I've watched Goran, I'd probably say Goran. Just based on watching him, I think you talking about the things that he's doing at this age. I think that's impressive in its own. What he's doing for the Miami Heat. I think even, the bubble last year, that upped it even more. What he did, for that team to get a team to the finals, averaging, however amount of points it was through that run, that was what really elevated it. And, even other things in the past, I just think everything he's done for this franchise, and then now them taking care of him, and he has, seems like much more ahead of him with the way he's playing right now. It seems like he's not stopping anytime soon. So I think he's up there.
So, Greg, I'm pretty sure this conversation comes down to Goran or Timmy, right?
Of course. And so I'm going to try to be as succinct as possible with my response here, but this is a very near and dear topic to my heart. So you're just going to have to bear with me. I grew up trying to emulate Timmy Hardaway when I played basketball. My varsity head coach pulled me aside one day and grabbed me by my jersey, and I'm sure that maybe today that would be like a viral issue. But he said, "You are not Tim Hardaway." And he scorned me for trying to do killer crossovers because I was like trying to be like Timmy. I grew up idolizing that dude. He was my favorite Heat player. Alonzo kind of sits on a different stratosphere, but Tim was the engine of those teams. And I would often say on Miami Heat Beat, shout out to those guys on many podcasts, no one will ever eclipse Tim Hardaway as the greatest point guard in Miami Heat history. No one will ever do that. That was my firm stance for like a decade. And I moved off that stance in the run in the bubble. Like what Goran did to get that team to the finals, the way that he carried them, he was the best player on the floor in a lot of those damn games. And to get to the finals, to stick with the team. And this is the other part of it. And this is like where the fans don't necessarily always see the way the sausage is made, is that Goran's almost been traded like 5 times. Like two trade deadlines ago, he was almost sent to Utah for Jay Crowder and Ricky Rubio. Like that was almost done. Like literally we were ready to tweet it out and it was done. There's been multiple other situations where they offered him in a package to Indiana to try to get Paul George. They've offered him in packages. I'm trying to think of other guys, but there's been a bunch. You guys have heard of, and you can probably think of others, but even the one with Dallas where like he almost was traded and then it all got killed. the fact that all that fell through and then he kind of got to the finals and got to the mountaintop, didn't win it. It's just a beautiful story. And I'm one for the narratives and I'm one for the sunshine pumping culture. So I'm going with Goran as the greatest point guard in Miami Heat history. End of rant.
I think that is a beautiful soliloquy in order for us to go ahead and end this, because it doesn't look like we're going to get a starting lineup, but we do have the extra yard that's supposed to be coming up at 7:00. Make sure you guys stay tuned for that. So again, thank you for joining us. For myself, Greg Sylvander, Brady Hawk, we'll catch you guys in the post game. You might have a pod, or great. Brady's definitely going to have a story 14 seconds after the game is ended. But yeah. Oh, wait, Manny say 5 more minutes? Fabulous, Manny. I had more to talk about anyway, because seriously, though, because I was so bummed out after yesterday that I took a lot more of the bad end than the good. Like, you don't just make – I think I heard Ethan talking about this on the 5 Reasons Sports Hour. You don't make that many threes by accident. That's too many people running open. Like, is that a schematic thing, or is that or was that just all effort? Like, I'm confused. Either one of you guys could jump in on that.
I mean, when you look at it, I think a lot of them were open. So that does, fall under schematic issues. And I think, the point we made earlier, just lack of energy, lack of intensity, that always falls on that end of the floor. Defensively, when you have energy, you're flying out, you're doing things like that. And when they were just playing lazy kind of yesterday, turnovers, not running around defensively, that's just going to happen. Guys are going to be open. Offensively, I mentioned there was just not a lot of movement. And I guess defensively, there wasn't a lot of movement at times as well, except when Avery Bradley was out there, because that dude just doesn't stop moving defensively. But, I think we're going to see, we talk about SPO adjustments day to day against the same team. We've never seen this before. And now after a game where they just broke a 3-point record, we're definitely going to see that cleaned up, I would expect. And force them, if you're going to get beat offensively, you're going to force them, to drive, to attack, and chase them off the 3-point line.
Royal, I don't blame you for being on the pessimistic side last night. That was deflating. Like, I went and tried to do a podcast and I struggled through it. There was a lot of me going as I was talking, because I was trying to transition, because I didn't really have much to say. So I'm with you, man. I took pessimistic views from that as well. 3-point shooting, just to chime in here. This is kind of how this happens. They get hot initially. The Heat recognize it. Then the Heat try really, really hard to get them off of their spots. They continue to make the shots. Then, the floodgates open for Milwaukee. Miami recognizes that. They take the foot off the gas pedal a little bit, and then we end up where the hell we ended up last night.
I think that's really – we didn't even do this, but we got 2 minutes left. But let's do game picks. So, Greg, who wins tonight? Why do they win? What's the score?
The Heat is going to win because Bam Adebayo always responds coming off of a bad or highly criticized game. And the Heat are going to win off the strength of great shooting. Duncan Robinson is going to rebound in this game. And let's go with Heat by 9.
Brady, I said yesterday on the pregame show that you're never wrong, and you let me down big time, Bucko. I just want to make sure that we put that out.
I don't think anybody could have expected that.
Nobody's keeping score.
No, but
except Royal.
Right, you've been more right than wrong in my eyes. So, brother, what you got for the next game?
Well, I think I'm with Greg on that one with Bam. I think he's gonna have a bounce back game just from an aspect of energy, like I mentioned. I don't think he's gonna go out there and score the ball like everybody wants him to, but I think he's gonna do what he does well. And I think it's going to be a big Goran game. I said it yesterday, it would be a big Goran game. This is a time with Jimmy out, for him to do what he does well. But, obviously he didn't play much because they were down for so long. But now he's going to get a good amount of minutes after, not playing well yesterday. So I think Goran's going to be big for them offensively. Bam's going to be good for them all around. And I'll say Heat by 4.
I'll keep mine quick, and it's going to be the same thing every game. The Miami Heat will win this game by any damn means necessary. We'll catch y'all in the post game.
Culture.